G'day everyone, welcome to Mark and Car's Porsche Talk, the podcast where we talk all things Porsche. If you love air-cooled, water-cooled, rear-engine, front-engine, or even mid-engine, there'll be something here for you. But most importantly, we're going to talk to the people who are passionate about our favourite brand. I'm your host, Mark, from the YouTube channel Mark and Cars. Thank you for taking the time to support this channel, watch it, listen to it. Feel free to share any input, suggestions and ideas through comments, reviews, or even boring old email. You'll find me on most social media platforms as Mark and Cars. Today, we've got a special guest, Andy from Rasp. Thanks for coming today, Andy.
Pleasure, Mark. Thanks for having me. Early for you, I know. In fact, I was whinging that it was early for me, but no, you've gone above and beyond.
Yeah, I'm in that sort of like what could be considered a sweet spot of time zones here in Perth, Western Australia, where we're 12 hours difference from the east coast of the west coast of USA, and about 8 hours different from Europe. So when I talk to people, it actually works out quite good if I'm willing to get out of bed early. Yeah, and right. That's, look, in all reality, I know you're over there in Melbourne, Victoria, and it's only a couple of hours out. So 6 a.m, I don't reckon that's too bad. Like, I'm sure you've been up that early to go on some nice drives.
No, never. Pretty much every Sunday, to be fair.
Yeah, okay, good one. So for the 6 people who are unaware of your relationship with the Porsche brand, tell us, what do you do, your social media, driving, cars you own? Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I run the YouTube channel Last Rasp, which I launched in July last year, Instagram channel of the same name. And my focus really is on trying to demonstrate the lifestyle of driving these cars rather than showing these cars, if that makes sense. You know,
right.
The thing that really blew me away, I've got 2 911s. I'm incredibly lucky. When I bought my 964, which was my first back in 2017, the thing that really blew me away was the relationships that car was able to help create for me. And I'd had an expectation, as many people would, that walking into the Porsche community was just going to be a lot of people having pissing contests about how much money they earn and you know, just have the stereotypical Porsche owner. But in fact, you know, I've met people who are just the complete opposite and who really love. They drive their cars every weekend and use them for their intended purpose. And I've got these great mates now out of it. So the idea with the channel was to kind of show that part of the Porsche ownership space of driving these cars, having a laugh about them, and that they're all great in their own way, whether they're the most modern GT3 or an old Boxster that's having the wheels driven off it day in, day out. They're all great cars. So I try and show that. I've got a 964 1990 C4 manual coupe. The 964 I know was the unloved 911 for a while. Thankfully, then the 996 came along and took that mantle.
Hey, just go easy on the 996. I know I've got a lot of 996 listeners and viewers.
Right. Well, I'll stop myself right there because I give my 996 pals a bit of grief from time to time, but I just love those cars. And you know, I did a test drive on my channel a couple of weeks ago of a friend's, a Tiptronic no less, and sure. Still one of the most fun cars I've ever driven, and I think they look $1 million too. So no, I'm a fan. I'm on board. But I always loved the 964. That was for me the car that was when I started really becoming an enthusiast around the brand. That was the current model.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've always wanted one, and then really started to see that LA air cooled scene start to blow up, and some of the modifications the guys were doing over there, and that sort of inspired me. And then last year I picked up a 991 C2S PDK, which is a mega thing, just incredibly capable, incredibly quick, and yeah, just an amazing car. So yeah, I'm sort of up to my neck in enthusiasm around the brand.
Sounds like it. It's interesting that you mentioned that the 964 was a current model when your eyes were open to the brand, or you realised that, hang on, these things aren't too bad. There's not only dentists that own them. And that's some time, considering you got that, you just mentioned in 2017, that's 28 years to that path of ownership is a long time.
Well, so I did have, in my early 20s, I bought a 76 Targa.
Yeah, okay.
And that was my daily. It was my only car.
Yeah, good one.
And it was one of those things back then. I think I bought that car for 23 grand. And it was that thing of at the time thinking, I can afford to buy this car. I can't believe it. Truth was, I couldn't afford to own it.
Yeah, sure. Big difference.
Yeah, 100%. So I traded it at the local Subaru dealer for a brand new base model Subaru Forester.
Is that right? Well, anyway, thanks for being on the show today, Andy.
Yeah, I just lost. I'm watching my subscriber count.
Yeah,
just watching that number go down as we speak. Yeah. No, one of the few big regrets of my life, Mark.
Now, more importantly, the question we're all wondering: what they give you for trade on it?
About what I paid, actually. So,
okay, so yeah, not too bad. Okay, yeah, sure. And did you say 23,000 before?
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon with that 2.7 magnesium case engine in that car, if I recall around that era, that would have been about the annual servicing on it back then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably.
As those head studs came out.
Well, and hence why I wanted to get rid of it. I was scared of the car, but I loved it. Okay. So sure. So the journey then takes a turn, and family and career and other stuff.
Yeah, sure.
And
you have
then
children?
Yeah, I got 2. So my son's 13 and my daughter's 16. So
okay, sure.
Growing up quick.
Too big to fit in the back of a 911 then?
Oh no, I squeeze them in. Look, they both love them.
Believe me, they're too big to fit in the back of a 911. Okay, you might think otherwise, right? Well, Dad's not taking us out in that again, is he?
Now, do you know what's funny? Because that's the other thing I should say, and I don't know if this has been your experience, but for me, I thought that when I got the 964, I thought it was the most selfish thing I could buy, that it was entirely for me.
Sure.
And in some respects, I felt a certain level of guilt.
Okay.
I was able to overcome that guilt, don't worry. But
yes,
but I did. But honestly, it's been this great thing for my family where my son will come on drives with me in the mornings. My wife and I, we go to the hills every weekend for breakfast. We've discovered areas around where we live in that car because the car's been the enabler.
Yeah, sure.
So it has been a great thing. It's been a great
fantastic thing. Yep.
It's
great here. Look, I've had similar experiences. Whilst my wife is not a Porsche fan or really even an automotive fan, she does love the classic lines and look of our 356, and, there is a little bit of, I think excitement, appreciation for the car, knowing that everywhere you pull up, even at traffic lights, out come phones, so she's feels like a, D-list celebrity. And it's just one of those, like if you, the best thing about having a car like we've got really is no one actually ever looks at who's in it.
No.
They're only looking at the car itself, so you do actually fly under the radar personally because no one's interested in who's behind the wheel or who's in the passenger seat. It's all about, my goodness, look at that car, more than anything else. And we've found, particularly with the earlier cars, there's just an appreciation for the fact that somebody's got one on the road, as opposed because they're so rare, as opposed to, it's just another high performance sports car of a generic brand who are all molding into a similar shape. So that in itself's been, is very noticeable amongst enthusiasts and stuff when we're out there on the road,
I was about to ask you about that because I've noticed since getting the 991, which is a black 991, so it's, that car flies under the radar, as you say. I see, and I've driven a lot of friends' Porsches, and the different experience that you have in those cars in the way that people respond to them, I think is proportionate to the age of the car. So, for example, the 991, kids will look at it and give me a thumbs up and seem impressed, whereas, I've had people hurl abuse at me in that car, and it doesn't help that there was some knucklehead in a black 991 doing silly things on the freeway here some time ago.
It's not actually that car, is it?
Hey?
It's not actually that car, is it?
No. So, I've had that experience. The 964 is somewhere in the middle where most of the response and reaction I get to that car is super positive.
Yep.
Occasionally I'll get someone have a crack at me in it, but for the most part, people kind of lose their minds over it. But then when I drove my friend's orange 71 Targa, people just everywhere just went nuts for that car. So I imagine for you in your 356 that you must be more at that end of the spectrum. Definitely. Where you don't get the negatives. Yep. It's all positive.
Yeah. Well, look, you can't fill the car up.
Yeah.
At a service. Like if I'm filling that car up at a service station, it's going to be at like 11 o'clock at night or, 5 in the morning. And look, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that other people appreciate the car and things like that. But it's, it's a challenge on some of those fronts. Look, the car gets a lot of respect on the road when you're driving it as well. People give you a bit of space and wave you through and things like this. So it is, definitely. It's a great tool for meeting people and things like that. And, I completely understand why people go to more powerful sports cars and things like that. And I will very likely own a 911 at some point in the future. But the driving a car of, 60 odd horsepower that weighs only 800 kilos, or 920 with me and my wife in it. It's just a fun car to drive, and you're at your ragged edge, and you look at the speedo, you go, okay, 70 mile an hour, that's good. I'm not going to jail. And that has a lot of appeal to me. Sure, if you go on runs with other modern Porsches, they wait for you 10 minutes later wherever the destination is, and you know what? I'm smiling as much as they are, except you know what? I got to drive 10 minutes longer.
Yeah, 100%.
So that aspect of the driving part of it, I love the older cars. I'll be straight up with you. I love driving old Beetles too, because they give me a similar sort of reward for energy, and it'd be no different to you going to, getting back into, I don't know, say a Mark II Escort, which I'm sure you drove at some point in your youth, or a early Corolla or rear-wheel drive Corolla or something like that. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there you go. So I'm sure, you would have wrung their neck out of that thing. No car would have bounced off its red line more than that. So that whole experience of driving is fantastic. It
is. And it's funny you say it, because just last weekend I was out on a run with friends and drove the 991. I tend to reach for the keys for the 964. And I just found I was traveling that much quicker because the car's insanely capable. And it does allow you to carry speed in a way that the old cars just don't.
Sure.
And then plus you've got horsepower to overcome any deficiencies in driving skills.
Sure.
But there's a point at which I just think the margins for error get so much slimmer, in terms of you're still on a public road, and whilst the car's capable, it's not a controlled environment. There's wildlife, there's other road users, and all these other things that can happen. So
sometimes they're the same thing.
Yeah, especially here. So I'm a bit the same as you. I mean, the 964 to me is this lovely little pocket where it's super capable, and able to go quick, but not in the way that my 991 does.
Yeah, great.
If I drive the wheels off it, I'm still going to jail. But I don't know. It is that slightly slower car fast, and it's this lovely little
sure.
Sweet spot for you. You said before that at some point you'll undoubtedly own a 911. Where does if you gaze to that horizon, where does your mind wander? What cars orbit around you?
Look, if the right 6 numbers came up, I'd love to get a 993. A nice, mildly modified 993 with, and I'd like to own that one that ever existed where the air conditioning works. Living here in Perth, and it's that, because I love the air cooled cars. I just like the bang and rattle, which is not a term I know Porsche themselves would like me to use to describe the experience, but that is, the experience I have when I'm in an air cooled car compared to the water cooled cars.
Yep.
And the dynamic, and I think they're pretty. So that would be, and look, if I find the right 993, I still may stretch myself into it.
Yep.
I don't want to be in that position that you mentioned earlier with your Targa, where sure I can get into the car, but the $6,000-7,000 it could potentially drop into my lap a year as unmanageable. So I don't want to drive it, and I don't want to be in that situation, So I'll see how things go on that front. I do know buying a more modern car gives me a significantly more reliable and comfortable experience, and in reality, more dailyable, So, and that appeals to me a bit as well. In my current job, it's not very suitable for me to drive a car that has a badge with the that we have as Porsche. But that aside, I think I'm maturing past that point where I'm less concerned about what other people are thinking when I turn up to my workplace. I'm getting towards that point of my life where if I haven't achieved that outcome by now, I've got to focus quite a bit on what my retirement plan is going to be. But that aside, I think I do. In reality, I'll probably end up with a nice 3-litre car.
Yeah, beautiful.
I've just got and I love them. I love driving those 3-litre cars. I do like the reviness of the smaller capacity 6-cylinder boxes. I do quite like that. But that experience of revving the cars that much to get the torque out of them with those earlier, 2.2, 2.7s, sometimes even 2-litre cars, but they are also getting very expensive because of the nature of the car. And that is in 993 territory. Once you get into those cars, and I would buy 993 over those earlier cars. So that's where I'm at. The 964s, as you know yourself, are, things are gold plated. Thank you, Singer. And they're just getting outside my capacity. Like I saw the exact type of 964 I would like for sale at Classic Throttle Shop last week for, I think it was for sale for like 2 days, and it was $200,000 motor car.
That's the white one.
Yeah. So
it's come up a few times, that car.
Yeah. So I'd say it's very likely for sale still. It just does drop on and off the market at around that price. And look, let's face it, that's going to be a record breaker if they do get them asking price. But in today's market, you just never know.
No, that's right. And it's the same with the orange one, the one with the orange wrap that keeps showing up.
Yeah, I know the one. It's like a matte finish.
Yeah.
Is that an Auto House? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. It's funny though, because to be honest, I think it's less about Singer and more about YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah, okay.
Because
I suppose Singer has given those people using those formats or forums some great product to use.
I think what Singer does is demonstrate the continued quality and the ability of that chassis to be turned into an exceptional car.
Yep.
But, in terms of the numbers Singer are buying up and pumping out, they're not massive.
Oh, no, of course not. Like, Chris Harris often talks in his podcast about how he's got only another 16 years to wait for his.
Yeah, exactly.
So I 100% understand. But, I did also hear that they've got some 113 cars with deposits paid.
They've got some lot.
Yeah,
I think that's right. But I think where the 964 has come into its own a little bit is that particular interpretation of the original 911 silhouette with its smoothed bumpers and the like. I think it just takes visual modifications really, really well.
It's fair.
Mm-hmm. In a way that perhaps the G-body cars, for example, don't.
I think that because of those bumpers, I think they're the best looking cars lowered.
Agreed, 100%. So that whole LA kind of scene,
drag your bum on the ground type,
being bagged and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. That's not my thing, but
that bagging's not your bag.
Not my bag. No, I'm not. Okay. I'm not bagging it. But I get it, and I get that whole stance thing. But even when they're a lot lower, sitting on BBS like mine are, it's just it's a look that I think has become desirable, and for whatever reason, I think it's just having its moment. And I think Instagram and even guys like Drew at 911 Cooled has really, I think, shone the spotlight on the 964, and he was probably one of the first people to really his sort of Porsche-based content around LA really, I think, shone the light on that, and he got a lot of followers fast and built a brand around it. Mm-hmm. So I think people wanted to drink from that Kool-Aid a little bit. So I put a little bit of it on Drew's shoulders too.
Yeah,
Respect to it.
And look, I remember when they came out, so sadly, showing my age a bit here, but I was fortunate enough in a previous workplace to drive brand new ones when they were released. And and I had, done some work on the earlier ones as well, the last of the G-body cars. And as a driving dynamic, even getting out of a, nice, say 89 3.2 G50 G-body car into a 964, it was like getting into a spaceship is the only way to describe the difference. It's like, it doesn't feel like that big a difference now when you get between.
No, I was going to say.
Think the most notable difference, and it's quite surprising, is the gear shifting, but considering it's the same gearbox, right? It's actually, it is very noticeable. That is like the position that you sit in the car is quite different. But other than that, to drive the two cars now, the suspensions is more forgiving in the 964. I'm talking about stock cars here, not how people have modified them within an inch of their life these days. But as a driving dynamic, it was just like getting into, the term latest and greatest. It's like getting into a 991 after getting into a 964. That was the difference. It felt like back then.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But
I still remember going into Hamilton's right across the road. We had Hamilton's and Duttons right across the road from one another.
Yep.
And I used to.
There's a recipe for financial disaster.
Oh man, yeah. Look, I think 20 or something at the time, and I'd go in there and just sit in these 964s, and like you say, it was the equivalent of walking into PCM now and sitting my bum in a 992. Yeah. Whereas it's funny because I think now of my car as this old. Every time you start it up, it's an experience sort of a car. But back then, like you say, latest and greatest.
Yeah. I don't think brand new 964 owners were thinking, come on, start, then turn the key.
No, they wouldn't.
Which, and because I've got I'm going through a bit of a thing at the moment where I'm reading really old magazine articles, Porsche magazine articles from the 50s through to the 70s.
Right.
I was given a pile of them, and from a viewer actually on the channel, and in Queensland, he sent them over to me. And reading the articles with what you know now compared to what they experienced then, and even automotive journalism back then. It's fantastic reading. I actually think there would be a market for someone to put together a string of, say, 150, 200 articles into a coffee table book that is just Air Cooled Porsche. There would, because every other Air Cooled Porsche coffee table book's already been done. And I think you just especially as an Australian product, because these are all Australian magazines. Yeah. Oh, it's a hoot. So just the way they describe it.
It's funny you say that because somewhere in the bookshelf back there, I've got a book that I bought back when I had my 76, which is exactly that. It's a compilation of all of the UK articles around the 2.7 911 at the time. And so there's, and in fact, might even be a couple of US articles in there as well. But I'll never forget, it was the most, because this is pre-internet, right? So
sure.
When you think about how hard it was to get any sort of content around Porsche when, back in the 90s, you'd go to automotive bookshops and stuff like that. And I remember buying this book and being so disappointed because the cover picture had a red Targa similar to mine, but with a leather car bra on it. And I just remember thinking, that's the image we went with for the front cover of this book. Who made that call? But it was full of articles from the time.
Yeah, okay.
And like you say, very different from now.
Yeah, just the way they're written as well. That's
yeah.
Like when they refer to your wife as the little lady at home.
Yeah.
That doesn't cut it in my household. Just so you know.
Neither.
Now, if I could just bring up your YouTube channel, I was we obviously have a common interest in YouTube and producing the product, and there's only so many Porsche content YouTubers in Australia, and we all pretty much are aware or know each other in some form or another and watch each other's videos here and there. And firstly, congratulations. The channel's a cracker. You clearly the last video you made had a fantastic edit. You did a great job there, but it looked like a lot of filming work too. that would have disrupted your rally quite a bit with the get ahead, come behind, stick this on a car.
Yeah,
I know what it's like with regards to the logistics of working with people. It would have been like herding cats.
It's funny. Herding cats was a phrase I used on the rally, but less about filming. It's more about, trying to organise us all to get fuel and stuff like that. Sometimes it's this is our meeting point and then other people move. But, we're a bunch of blokes who are all in our own lives the masters of our own domain. So suddenly you're on this kind of school camp situation where, you're being ferried around the place.
I can imagine.
People are naturally going to have their own view on where they want to land and get petrol or breakfast. But, but look, there are definitely times where I think I would just love to just be driving today.
Sure.
And which is why I don't film most of the Sunday drives I do, because I just want to leave the camera at home.
Yeah, I 100% get it. Like the lugging the stuff around, getting everything pre-set up, all that sort of thing. And it's just disrupting your experience. And now I get that you want to share that experience with other people so they can embrace it. But it's actually, I find it robs me of some experience. So I do a bit more. I don't do too much event filming anymore, purely, driving filming anymore, just because I work 6 days a week. I've got that seventh day is pretty special to me. And if I want to get behind the wheel of my car for a couple of hours.
Yes. And also you want to, you want to be able to pull, when you pull over and have a stop, have a chat with people and
they're conscious of the cameras on. You don't talk the same.
It's funny. I try and get kind of long lens and out of people's faces a little bit, but I suppose with the rally, the one thing for me is that whilst there are times where I may get a little bit tired of saying, "Hey guys, I'm just going to race ahead and set up." The flip side is that I get then something at the end of it where I get to relive it.
I 100% accept that and agree.
Yeah, and it's no different for me than it is for the guys I do it with. In that, those rally videos, I sort of cut it for my friends basically. So I make it longer than I typically would. I'm usually about condensing my content.
Sure.
But I make those ones longer because I know the guys just want an experience the same as I do, which is, can I somehow relive those 3 days? Can something come close to bottling that for me? And if I get anywhere near that with a video, then I feel like I'm doing the job okay.
Yeah, sure. And look, typically with that intent, like I know myself, like the weekend just gone, my family and I, during school holidays, we went down to a mountain range south of about 350 kilometres south of Perth called the Paronga Ups, and we did some bushwalking up a couple of mountains and that sort of thing, right? And on one of the climbs that we did, it's about an hour and a half climb, whatever, I decided to take GoPro and to make a short film of our experience for the 6 people that would watch it, and that's the 3 of us here at home and my wife's parents and her sister. Really, that's about it. And it was a very satisfying film to make and edit.
Yeah.
And because it was just a passion project of a topic that is completely not what I normally film. And it was a real delight to actually produce that. And, I in fact, I haven't even put it up on YouTube. It's on Instagram TV, that one only, because I know that's the forum in which those people will watch it. And for me, it was a very enjoyable, satisfying outcome, But that's not to say I do really enjoy creating the Porsche content. And I hope this isn't coming across that I don't, because the actual dynamic and, the channel has enabled me to meet more people who I'd never come across. Like this conversation we're having right now, our world would probably collide in another 3 to 5 years because of travel restrictions and stuff, as opposed to, as often as they do.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I kind of figure at the end of the day, it's something we choose to do. And, if on a drive, for example, if I'm not feeling it and I don't want to pull out the camera that much, then maybe I just do a bit more GoPro. And, the challenge for me is I always put pressure on myself around the production values of it. So, so if I don't shoot a huge reams of content, then I just condense it. But yeah, it's for me. I know that you just talked about your family, right? And making that video for them. I think possibly one of the reasons that's so satisfying for you is that audience, while small, is going to be the most engaged audience ever for that piece of content. So for me, the rally videos are exactly the same. I know that if only 18 people watch them, i.e. the people who did the rally,
sure,
I know they're going to watch them a few times, and I know it's going to deliver an experience for them that hopefully they really enjoy.
How you know yourself from doing this for the last little while with the channel. How do these other channels get like hundreds of thousands and millions of views? I'm baffled. Like, I give up how the whole thing works. Don't get me wrong. I don't do it for the views because, it's not my income stream or anything like that. I don't have that urgency or desperation to make the channel bigger than what it is. Its growth is nice. And I 100% appreciate the fact that up to, several thousand people might watch a video I've done, if only for the first few minutes, because they realize that what I'm doing is not exactly for them, but they've gone to the trouble of clicking on my video to watch some of it. I'm baffled how some of these channels get that volume of visibility, Yeah,
it's funny. Look, I think having only started my channel in July, there was a part of me that thought, have I missed the boat here? Is it just too late to start a YouTube channel? When you look at people like Peter McKinnon with 5 million plus subscribers, you go far out. That's sort of where the benchmarks are. But then I kind of figured, well, I'm really doing it so I can learn some production skills and push myself in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You think about people like Cars with Luke, for example. He's got massive numbers. Same with Seen Through Glass, those sort of guys. I think partly their channels are less niche. And for Cars with Luke, for example, his content's beautiful. The locations are stunning. He's got a great style. And he features cars that are incredible, but across all of the brands.
Sure.
And look, I don't know. I think there's so many things that come into play. I think volume is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with that because I don't put out that much content just because my style is one where, it just takes time to produce to the quality that I want to produce to, and I want to learn something every time I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I know that I could pump out a lot more content if I simplified it, and which I totally
that's evident. That's evident by vloggers. You can see they're punching out something most days, and their edit is a 15-minute edit. Whereas, I've no doubt your last video would have been a 12 to 16 hour edit just by watching what you've done.
It was long.
I know.
But see, Matt Farah I've heard him talk about it, that, he worked out that he would get this higher number of views by just putting 2 GoPros in the car, one on him and one on the windscreen, and no editing. And same, I heard an interview with
his old one take concept.
Yeah, 100%. And Shmee was the same. He said, he went through a period of trying to overproduce his videos and thought he wasn't getting the view numbers that sort of represented the quality and the effort that went into it. So he figured, I'm better off. Hello, who's this?
This is Pearl.
Hey, Pearl, how you going?
She can't hear you. I've got headphones. Oh, you could? Oh, you can hear through here, can you? Okay.
How are you, Pearl? You good?
Good.
Good. Have you had breakfast yet? No, me either.
Mum's gone out for a walk. Yeah, I haven't either. You haven't had it either.
No.
This is
I had
Andy.
coffee in bed.
He's in Melbourne. Here's Mum now. I can hear her coming back from a walk. Can you close that door, please?
How good is that?
She's just come in, right? So listen, this is not good podcasting, everyone, but I'm doing this purely out of selfish reasons. She's written me a note. She slipped it under the door thing I was going to read. I'll just read it to you. It says, Dad, can Dougie, that's our sausage dog, and I please watch TV?
It's got to be a yes, right? I mean, all the effort.
School holidays. Look, we try to limit. I know that she's going to want to watch TV this afternoon, so she would watch it 24 hours. I'm sure your kids were the same at that age,
Of course.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But it's a good fun.
Yeah. So look, I don't know how YouTube works. YouTube, it rewards you when you upload, it punishes you when you don't.
Look, it's anyway, it's pretty interesting. So, let's just go back to the cars. Do you maintain your own cars?
A little bit. With the 991, no.
Yeah. You don't have the right laptop. Yep. Sure.
No, exactly. I've done little basic things to that, and certainly visually, I do. I'm
sure.
Give me microfiber towels, 27 buckets, and all the rest of it, and my cars are about the cleanest going around.
Good plug. Channel sponsor, Bowden's Own here.
There you go. I do use some of their products, and I'm nuts about that. Mm-hmm. But with the 964, I do some of the work myself.
Sure.
I just changed pads last week. That's no issue. But at the moment, it's in a little phase of trying to chase down some problems.
Yeah. Okay. I've got that list. Yeah,
and that I've got. I've got a great local independent shop that I go to, 9 Auto.
Yeah, nice.
And I've got a great relationship with them, with Stu. And I think I don't know what your experience is, Mark, but for those jobs that sit outside your skill set, for me, it's about developing the relationship with a mechanic where it's like any relationship. You know that for the most part it'll be good. They won't always nail everything. But that's because these cars are tricky and you can't just plug the laptop in and get the diagnosis. But they've been fantastic and they love my car and I know they love my car. They do most of the work. How about you? What's your
look? Yeah, I'm quite hands-on, right? But it's more a case of my time that I have up my sleeve as opposed to my skill set.
Right.
I've got a couple of really good independent Porsche mechanics here in Perth that I use. Actually, 3 I've used across various times, depending. I know where they're strong, So, for example, I've actually got one that's only 1 kilometre away from my house here.
Right.
Andy at Rensport, and he's a great guy. He's been a member of the Porsche Club for over 30 years. He might even be one of the founding members off memory. Right. He worked for Porsche for, a good 15 to 20 years before he went off on his own. And he's, great, but he's just a one-man operation. He's up to his back axles he's booked out 2 to 3 months in advance. So, and I had my engine rebuilt in my car about 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And he said, look, that's in my wheelhouse, but I'm just not going to be able to deliver it in a timeline that's going to be acceptable to you because of all the other work I've got, and I need these other jobs to keep my cash flow going. And so he was very good and honest about it, And so I went and spoke to another member of the club who is a racing specialist and an engine rebuild specialist, and he'd done 3 other 356 motors in that 12 months. And it's a small town, Perth. I know who's got every 356 in this town, as you can imagine, right? So, taking that into consideration, he was the guy, and and he was happy to do it the way I wanted to do it, and that was a big thing for me as well. Which was I spent realistically probably 2 maybe 3 years accumulating the parts for the upcoming rebuild. So when things came up, like I didn't want to just go and pay retail for everything, and it's not because I'm tight; it's just because it's expensive, and I did it all at once. It'd be an expensive project, So, I came across a guy who had a 912 in the UK who gave up on a project. He had a box full of stuff, and 912 engine is very similar to a 356 engine. So I got a cheap set of crank for the car. I got a set of conrods from a guy in America who never opened them out of the box, and because they sat on his shelf for 6 years, and just things like that. As stuff pops up. I found a pair of 912 heads in Melbourne.
Right.
On some that were brand new, never been used.
Yeah.
So they were, new old stock that someone had bought from when Hamilton's closed up, and
amazing.
Yeah, so it's just things like that. I just kept my eyes open, and as things popped up, I bought them, and as a result, I probably saved myself about 10 grand in the process of having the engine rebuilt.
Do you go through a process as you're considering that rebuild of what's the research process like around, with a car like my 964, there are so many different ways you can go, and whether you punch it out to 3.8 or Motec, all this stuff. Is it a more clearly defined path with something like a 356?
Your range of options are less. on that front, with regards to tunability, I guess. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, the outcomes are comparable. It's just the numbers are very different,
right.
because of modern metallurgy and, 60 years of development.
Yeah.
That part of it in itself, which is also one of the big benefits of, even with the motor in the 964, that engine's been developed globally for 30 years now. 30 so years, yeah, there's, or actually longer, because really that motor is just an evolution of the previous one. So that many people have made the mistakes. You and I don't have to.
Yeah.
So
I keep making them anyway. Don't worry.
But yeah, look, with regards to that path, like anyone that asks me, I tell them, what do you want the car for? What do you want it to do? There's no point chasing a high horsepower number if you're going to drive the car on the road. Yeah. You're better off going for a high torque number, so you can get all your power where you need it. And look, the only path to power in the flat four and the 356 is revs.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got to make the motor be able to rev further and harder, and the further it goes, the more power you're going to get. But you don't need to do that. You can increase capacity relatively easy.
Right.
But in all reality, it costs you about a quarter of the price to develop a Volkswagen Type 2 or Type 4 motor than the Porsche motor, which will bolt straight in. So a lot of 356 owners do that. They get a 150, 200 horsepower VW motor and drop it into their 356, and then put their original number motor on the shelf.
On the shelf, yeah.
Yeah, like Scott from Outlaw Garage, his
right.
356 has got a very well developed, I think it might be a Gene Berg engine in that one.
I see.
I'm going to talk to him on a podcast in the future, so I'll get to the bottom of that. And that car was actually built here in Western Australia.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it depends on whatever path you want to go down. But look, I will be straight up with you. The cost of rebuild in a 356 is significantly cheaper than a 911.
I can imagine that.
The cost of 911, you crack that peanut open, it's tens of thousands. There's nowhere to hide there. That's just piston and cylinder kit, I think, is probably going to cost you the better part of in the teens these days.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That sits somewhere in my future.
Okay.
And largely not because the car desperately requires it. It's not.
How many cases are done?
140.
Yeah. Okay. So it's pretty. It'd only be through age, not through wear that engine's thinking in getting rebuilt, right. Isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I've done. When I bought it, it had. What have I done? I've done 30 something, so it might have more on it. Maybe it's more like 160.
Yeah. Okay. Sub 200 though.
But because I sort of tip. I do around 10 in it a year. I drive it all the time. Mm-hmm. I don't daily it, but I'll drive it Saturday, Sunday, every weekend, and at some point during the week, I might daily it once. So yeah, it gets used, and for me, it's about finding what's going to be the optimal balance between chasing some horsepower, but ultimately drivability. Because I know people who have seen, have put money into modifications to increase horsepower, but in terms of pace they're able to carry through the twisties, there's no appreciable benefit. Yes, maybe they can pull out of that corner a whisker quicker, but are they any quicker than they were before? Debatable. Whereas spending the money on driver training, spending the money on chassis development so that you can actually carry
Stop this common sense talk.
No, I know, but it's taken me a while to get there myself.
Yeah, sure,
right?
sure.
Because I've gone down the rabbit hole, and I've looked at the Fab Speed website and gone, okay, that adds 8 horsepower. That's 12 horsepower. That adds 16, and you start adding them up, and you're like, oh wow, I can spend $800 and gain 40 horsepower. It doesn't work that way, obviously. But yeah, I was drinking that Kool-Aid early on.
Yeah, sure. And look, let's be realistic with a car that is, built in 1990, so 30 years old.
Yep.
Best case scenario, spend $100,000 on your engine. It's still only going to be a 350 horsepower car.
Yeah. That's
what I mean. So
that's where the top ends.
That's right. And so go and buy an XR6 turbo that has been flogged within an inch of its life, and So you've got to go driving experience. There's no point adding anything unless you're getting more out of the driving experience, because you cannot win the power game.
No, that's right. That's 100% right. And I'm not interested in, dragging off people at the traffic lights and stuff like that. It's not about that for me. Look, where the horsepower and torque really come into play for me is in the hills. If we're climbing or something like that, then having particularly that down low torque, that's where it's brilliant. But it's pretty rare that I'm behind someone and, we pull out of a corner and, I'm thinking, come on, they're pulling away. And it doesn't matter whether I'm chasing a 993 or a 996 or a 997. Usually we're all somewhere
there and about.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's been no drastic performance increases from model to next model.
Yeah.
By the brand in general. Let's face it, if you've got out of a 991.2 and you get into a 992, sure, it's pumped an extra 50 horsepower, whatever, and the cars are an extra 50 kilos or whatever. There's not that much, all the evolution of each model into the next one is about drivability as a general rule, and they have to pump the number to give it that selling point, don't they?
Yeah. And you got to leap a few models. So when the difference between, for example, my 964 and the 991, but obviously in drivability terms is massive, but also in horsepower terms.
But only 100.
Yeah, well, that's it. Because the 991's 400 horsepower, and the
964, I think it'd be about a 300 horsepower car, wouldn't it?
No, they're 250 at the crank.
Okay, sure.
Out of the factory. So I don't know where mine sits. I haven't dynoed it. It's got some.
It's disappointing.
Pods. Yeah, I know, and I've got a MAF kit on it as well. But. I don't think I'm that much higher than stock, if any, to be honest.
Sure. And look, for the joy it gives you to drive, you got to question the need to generate more. So so anyway, the horsepower game, it's a lose-lose for me. With my car, it's about reliability, drivability type of thing when I do my engine rebuild. Overall, in my own car, this is I've lowered the car a bit and made it look like I like.
It looks so good.
I got 3 sets of wheels, which I've sort of got a rack there that I keep in the garage. I actually got given a set of wheels because when people do restorations, they want the latest and greatest and newest. And what am I going to do with all this? I'll take it. So I've got 3 sets of wheels that I rotate between on my car depending on my mood. I've got a big set of 17s on there that purists loathe because they're like a set of smoothies, Coddington smoothies, but they're good. They're good fun. Oh, the heaviest buggery to put on. They weigh a ton, right?
Really?
They're not a performance product. It's a show pony product, right? But it's good fun. And plus, the car's overtired. It's too much rubber on the road on those wheels.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. But and at the moment I've got the traditional 4.5 inch wheels on.
Look at that.
Yep. So they're
what a stunner, hey.
Yep. So they look good on the car all the time. So
it's funny some of those products where you're willing to sacrifice performance for aesthetic. I mean, I even think about my exhaust. It sounds mega. It delivers nothing in terms of performance, but just sounds great. The interesting thing with my favorite upgrade on my car is my BBS E88s, and they are actually a significantly lighter wheel than the Cup ones. And that was something I noticed. I expected as well, going from a 17 to an 18, that the ride would feel harsher.
Sure.
But it didn't, both through the lightness of those wheels, but also the format of Michelin tyres that I was able to access in that size.
Better quality.
Better ride quality. And,
sure.
So better.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So overall, I probably drive my car minimum once a week.
Yep.
If I had the right job, I would daily my car.
Yeah, right.
That's how much joy it brings me,
Yeah.
And look, don't get me wrong, my daily car is the classic textbook soccer mum car. I drive a Volkswagen Tiguan, right? Yep. So and it has everything. It's one of those ones. It's got all digital dashes and it's got all driver assist, and you get in it. It is holus bolus, the comfort zone. It is like a cocoon, and it's a great car for the family and all that sort of thing. But it's just a tool. Whereas
it's an appliance.
And that's actually one of my fears, because you driving your 991, that's on my list as potential dailies, one of those, right? A PDK 991. And for those listeners and viewers to this wouldn't know, but I have messaged you asking about your 991, how you felt about it as a daily because of that very reason. And but the more I think about it, I don't want that car to become less special than what it is by dailying it.
Do you know what I'm finding at the moment actually on that's interesting is that the car is now, to me, morphing into something where it has very much a dual personality.
Yeah, okay.
Because I'm over the initial, oh wow, I'm in a 991 and just want to rev the hell out of it everywhere I go.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I think about it now more just like a car, like a tool.
Yes.
You're somewhat able to compartmentalize the differences in the car's personality. So I get in the car at the end of the day, leave it in manual mode, don't touch the sport button, drive home, listen to a podcast, and it's just a lovely car, just a nice place to be.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it therefore doesn't rob what the experience is when you get in it on a Sunday morning and decide you're going to go belting through the hills, because it completely changes personality. It completely changes the experience it delivers. So, yeah, I've been surprised about that. It doesn't rob it of that magic. It doesn't.
Okay, it's just interesting. People commonly.
This is only a recent observation.
Yeah, sure. People commonly talk about the drivability or daily supercar concept of 911. Okay, and that's what you're saying is exactly that, and it's a common thing that people talk about. But I have not experienced it myself, so I'm sure. I hope that epiphany. I get the opportunity to get that epiphany at some point soon. Yeah. All right, then. Well, I think we've crapped on for the better part of nearly an hour now, so we might.
There's breakfast to be had and clients to deal with.
Yeah, okay. Go out there and make some millions.
Real life work to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate you taking the time today, and hope that things continue going well for you with the YouTube channel and all that type of thing. And it's been great having a chat face to face. We should actually just do this more often.
Yeah, it'd be great, Mark. And thanks so much for having me on, and love your work, love your channel. I really do. So I feel quite chuffed to have been invited on. So thank you.
Fantastic. And I'll be over there for the F1. So let's catch up, have a coffee, go and drool over cars at Dutton's.
Coffee at Dutton's, I think.
Yeah, good one. All right then. Thanks very much for your time today, Annie.
No problems at all.
Thank you.
See ya.